How we doing, boys and girls? Manthieus here. Welcome back to another video. So 10.2 has been on the PTR for a little while, and we did a few videos covering some of the basics of the Emerald Dream a couple of weeks back. Not too much has changed since then, but what I wanted to do today is start taking a little bit of a look at some of the profession changes and what you should maybe be looking towards and paying attention to come patch 10.2. Now, quick obvious disclaimer for doing this being that this is still probably about 4 or 5 weeks until the launch of patch 10.2, so between now and then there could definitely be some changes. If there's anything significant, I will keep you updated. Good opportunity to suggest you hit the subscribe button so when those new videos do pop up, you're first to see them. But today, let's take a look at a few substantial things. Firstly, I want to cover a small sort of thing that's floating around, the rumour mill. Rumour mill being that patch 10.2 could be the last major content patch for Dragonflight. And I was a little bit dismissive of this to begin with. It didn't seem to make much sense for me for this to be the last content patch, considering we are only 12 months into the Dragonflight expansion, less than 12 months in to the Dragonflight expansion at this point, and most expansions last 2 years. But there is seemingly more and more evidence starting to appear that this could be the last major content patch. One of the biggest ones popped up with this latest update of the PTR, and it's with the new renown for the new factions. We are going to be grinding our reputation with the Dream Wardens come 10.2, and one of the rewards once you reach renown 18 is this little item, the Dreambound Augment Rune. This, for players who have played the sort of final patch of the last few expansions, are usually made aware of the fact that there is often a permanent Augment Rune that turns up at some point. And that is usually signifying the fact that this is the last patch. Here's your permanent one. This should finish you off for the remainder of the expansion. And, you know, come the next major content patch, the next raid cycle, there'll be a new one because it will be a new expansion. This turning up is a really big flag, a really big red flag to indicate that this could very well be the last major content patch. Now, I use the phrase major content patch because we could get a 10.2.5, a 10.2.7, but the likelihood is this is probably going to be the last big zone. This is probably going to be the last raid. This is probably the last, you know, they're probably going to tie the story off, at least for the most part. And those rumours that have been circulating are looking more and more likely every day than every update that we see. This also means, from a goblin perspective, if you are sort of farming up those augment runes, predominantly you get them from doing your call, is it called the call to arms? If a tank or a healer is in desperate need for the dungeons, you get that bag at the end of the dungeon run. It contains a bit of gold, a bit of an augment rune or two occasionally. These things are about 1,500 to 2,000 gold a piece currently. So 100,000 gold to buy yourself a permanent one is, whilst it's not necessarily cheap, this is, I think, double the price it was in Shadowlands. I don't know how players are going to feel about that. Luckily for me, I don't engage too much in the end game to care about this item. I certainly won't be buying one of these, but I know there's a lot of people that use augment runes on the regular and will be quite surprised at the 100,000 gold number on that. But this is a bit of a side. This wasn't really what I wanted to focus on in this video today. I wanted to look through some of the professions and some of the stuff that is coming for your crafting professions predominantly. I am a jewel crafter and a leatherworker on my main, so I looked at those first. But we did make some notes. In fact, it's probably... Let's just show you my notes. We did this on stream today. Twitch.tv/Manthieus, another shameless plug there. We put this together on stream today. We jumped through each of the different professions and tried to see what new recipes were appearing. Now, of course, there could be more by the time 10.2 launches, but this is just what we can see here and now. So new materials wise, there's not too much. Herbalists and miners are going to be doing pretty much the same thing, gathering the same sort of materials. there is a Dreaming Essence. Dreaming Essence appears to basically be the new version of the Shadow Flame Essence from 10.1. This is used in a couple of recipes, not too many, but it is used in a couple of recipes. Let's see if we can quickly showcase this. One of the new recipes for leatherworking is a new embellishment, the Verdant Conduit. This is one of the things that uses this Dreaming Essence. Acquisition of this, we guess, is going to be pretty much the same as the Shadow Flame Essence. It'll drop from the raid. You kill bosses in the raid, there's a chance of getting one of these. You can sell them on the auction house, you can buy them on the auction house if needs be. This also showcases the Dreaming Antler Fragment. This is quite an interesting one. We did a bit of digging into this earlier on stream today. We haven't found out everything we want to find out about this, but this is an equivalent to the Obsidian Cobra skin. The elusive skinning from the cavern, you can basically replicate the same thing. We figured out that this is likely to drop from a elusive creature from sort of the northeastern coast in the new zone. More to come on this once we do a little bit more deeper testing, but skinners are going to look to get some of this, and it's an item that is used in a couple of recipes as well, so it'll be important for skinning. Skinning's actually looking to be one of the professions that might have a lot of joy the first few days and weeks. If any of you remember the 10.1 launch, the Obsidian Cobra scale was like stupid expensive. Really stupid expensive for a little while, considering nobody really knew how to get it and nobody really knew, people hadn't figured it out. Luckily, people are trying a bit harder this time, and so we're starting to see some stuff ahead of time. There's also an item that is not necessarily new, but it is used in one of the new Druid glyphs that up until this point hasn't been used in anything. It's called Auric Fleece. It's actually a grey item, would you believe it? But I took a little bit of a look on the region, on the auction house, and somebody's already done some funny business on this. They've already bought them all out and relisted them all for 30k. So there's some shenanigans going on these things. But this is something skinners could be getting on with right here, right now. With it being used in one of the new Druid glyphs, and it's the only place this material is used, I suspect there'll be quite some demand for this item. And considering it's something that nobody's had any use for up until this point, there's unlikely to be too many of them, unless skinners do skinner things and farm up a bunch of them in the run-up to patch 10.2. But of course, lots of things could change. Recipes wise for the professions then, to just give you a quick rundown then, there is a lot of what I would call the same old stuff appearing. Your PvP sets, there's a full new suite of PvP stuff, so jewel crafters are going to make the rings and necks once again. Leatherworking is going to be responsible for both the mail and the leather PvP set. Blacksmithing has the plate set, and I think it's Inscription that is also making some of the trinkets as well. So a new suite of PvP crafts to make. They've not been super lucrative this expansion, but actually the way that you can make most of your gold with these is by flipping the recipes, believe it or not. I've actually had far more success flipping recipes than I have with actually just buying the recipes, crafting the stuff with it. Odd, I know, but it's a thing. Acquired, I would guess, in the same sort of way. By winning PvP, you have the chance of getting one of these recipes. You can choose to either learn it or throw it up on the auction house, your choice. Outside of that, though, it's quite sparse. There are 3 new embellishments that I think are going to be important to people. Dream Tender's Charm, Verdant Conduit, and Blacksmiths are making... not Blacksmiths, Tailoring are making the Verdant Tether. 3 new embellishments. They've recently nerfed or rebalanced, should we say. I don't think nerfed is quite the right phrase with this, but they've recently rebalanced a bunch of the 10.1 or the current best in slot embellishments, probably to help promote these 3 new ones. The recipes for these are predominantly going to come from the raid as well. The Dream Tender's Charm is the jewel crafting one. This is going to come from the raid. If we take a little bit of a look at the adventures guide, you can see already that Gnarl Root is going to drop the Dream Tender's Charm. First boss of the raid, probably lots of people will be killing this dude very quickly. The likelihood is even though it's tagged as very rare, you should start to see some of these recipes appearing on your auction house probably the very day the raid goes live, but expect to pay a pretty penny for this if you want to be one of the first people to get it. There's a couple more. The other two come from the other raid bosses. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly who drops what or where. The Verdant Conduit for Tailors comes from the Council of Dreams, which is the 4th boss in the raid. This may, if Blizzard follows the same like the same released sort of schedule for the raid, it may be that LFR is also available day 1, but it's likely to only be the first 3 bosses, is usually how LFR tends to work. Meaning that the only recipe that you might be able to acquire through LFR could potentially be the jewel crafting one. I know a lot of people were running LFR on as many characters as they could at the beginning of 10.1 to try and get some of these big ticket designs and plans and recipes and that sort of thing. I know a few people out there made an awful lot of gold selling these recipes quick and early on. Looks like it might only be the jewel crafting one that you can get your hands on via mass running of LFR at least. Council of Dreams then for your tailoring one, and I think it's the second to last boss that drops. No, that's the... No, where's it gone? Where's the last one gone? Oh, okay. The weapon enchant comes from Laradar, the 5th boss. Surely not off Farak. Okay, that's only 2 of the 3. Okay, I thought all 3 of them came from the raid. My mistake. But either way, the likelihood is the 3 new embellishments are going to come pretty quickly. Jewel crafters, leatherworkers, and tailors are going to be the 3 professions that are going to be making the new embellishments. One thing to note: this could just be a balance thing. But the Verdant Tether, the tailoring one, uses 3 Dreaming Essence, where the others only use 1 Dreaming Essence. This could very easily cause the tailoring embellishment to be like outrageously expensive. A small past history lesson for maybe those that didn't play at the very beginning of patch 10.1, but the Shadow Flame Essence from 10.1 was easily 25 to 50k in the first week. Now, if you need 3 of them to make 1 embellishment, that could be 150k crafting cost. God knows what people are going to try and sell them for if that's the crafting cost. That could make tailoring a little bit difficult, a little bit tricky. But of course, this could be a balancing thing, and it could all change, closer to the launch date. So embellishments aside, what else has other people got? Well, blacksmithing has a new Flourishing Dream helm. It's the only new piece of armor so far that we've been able to stumble across. We can see the recipe for this as it drops from the raid. Hang on, please hold. So the Flourishing Dream helm has an interesting ability that if you take damage, it can cause a slumbering dream, and it will also then give a flourishing dream to an ally, and I guess you run close to the ally and it makes magic happen. It's the only new piece of gear. Whether plate wearers are going to be interested in this screams like paladin tanks, warrior tank, like plate tanks in general are going to might be interested in this. It's the only new piece of gear to run after, and it is for blacksmiths. I would say at the moment it's a touch odd, and this is why I do suspect that lots of things could change between now and the launch of patch 10.2, because the recipe for this indicates that it uses obsidian cobra skin and shadowed alloys to make it, which a lot of you may be aware are very predominant 10.1 crafting components. This could potentially change before 10.2, or it will just help keep the relevance of the 10.1 materials. This does lead me to another little bit of an interesting thing. Dracothists, glow spores, 2 of the big markets in patch 10.1 in the Zaralek Cavern. A lot of people have been leveling up alchemists left, right, and center to make as many, to crank out those Dracothists. It may only be a small little profit each time, but it's a profit nonetheless. I'm pretty confident in saying that we might see glow spores and Dracothists stick around at this point. I don't see there being a alternative to them. We did suspect that it was placeholder right at the very beginning of patch 10.2, but after weeks and weeks of the PTR, we've still seen no change. We're getting remarkably close to when 10.2 is probably going to go live, and it does feel to me, this is one man's opinion, of course, but it does feel as if Dracothis and Glow Spores might stick about. Now, do with that information as you wish. Obviously, if you are to stock up any of these materials, be aware that if they do last minute drop a new version of Dracothis and a new material to go and farm, you're going to be left holding the bag on those materials, which is not fun for anybody. But my suspicion is that they might not be adding anything new, and they might just be doing the absolute bare minimum to sort of keep crafters semi-happy, should we say. Moving on slightly then, Inscription is getting a few new bits and pieces. It looks like the list for Inscription is bigger than it is for others, but that's because they sort of cover a few of the niche areas better than some of the other professions do. New Manthieus Rune, pretty much the same sort of thing. They have the new PvP trinkets. There is a couple of new glyphs that they make, druid appearance glyphs, which will be quite popular. The one we mentioned earlier, the Mark of the Auric Dream Stag, is actually an RNG drop from what we can gather so far. So if you get the recipe of this, congratulations, you won the RNG lottery. This is the only item in the game that is going to use this Auric Fleece. It's the only place it's used, and so, you know, it's very situational demand on this. There's another glyph which you just buy the recipe for 35 gold from a vendor in the Emerald Dream, so I imagine that won't really be... I mean, you might be lucky and sell a couple on the first day, for example, to people who just see, oh, new, shiny, and must have it, but the reality is very quickly this will be basically free. A new contract... Scribes are going to get their new contract for the new faction as well. The interesting thing with the contract is it's not tied to reputation this time by the looks of things. Maybe Blizzard have decided that people were far too clever about cheesing the rep grind and getting access to the contracts much quicker than they expected. So this time round, they've changed the method of getting the new contract, or at least it's not part of the renown path, at least not at this current moment in time. It might change, but we don't know. There's going to be a new way to get the new contract for the new zone, so be aware of that. And of course, scribes always are the ones that are making some bonus dragon riding mog as well. Talking about alchemy very quickly. Alchemy doesn't have too much. We've only found 2 new potions. A new healing potion, or 2 new healing potions technically. The Dreamwalker's healing potion is your regular potion. The only thing to note on this is it's super frost heavy. By that, what I mean is that it's going to use your frost... Rousing Frost, Awaken Frost in pretty large quantities to make this. So if you haven't already, I mean, we've started to see the price of Awakens generally across the board slowly rising as people start to squirrel stuff away. But alchemists are going to be very, very interested in Rousing and Awaken Frost. So, you know, if you are an alchemist, pay attention. There's also a new toxic healing potion, which has the Kiss Curse effect of healing you massively, but then putting a damage over time effect on you, which will need to be countered by your healer to gain any benefit from it. Also requires you to go to the goddamn altar to make these things again, so I wouldn't expect to see this having much love. I reckon the regular healing potion is what people will probably buy a stack of before they head off to the raid. And engineering... Nothing much to say, unfortunately, for engineering, other than they have the PvP goggles like they do most patches, and there's one new toy, a portable party platter. That's all engineering is getting currently. I do think there's a little upgrade. I can't confirm this. I've just literally remembered this off the top of my head. I think the wormhole is getting an upgrade to send you to the new zone, but that's, you know, more of a quality of life feature rather than a goblinry thing. So some final thoughts then, because I'm dubious of this video getting too long. My final overall thoughts at this point in the development of the PTR is that there is very limited stuff coming, very limited new both materials and crafts. A lot of it seems to be sort of the same old stuff you'd expect to see every patch, but it's not really too much to get you excited. The embellishments are probably going to be the big ticket for most professions, but there's a reliance there on you actually getting the recipe. This is going to be in the hands of those who are willing to spend the most on the recipe. For reference, I was one of the first people in the EU to get the Shadow Flame recipes, both the weapon enchant and the leatherworking armor patch in patch 10.1, and I think I spent a combined value of about 1 million gold just on the recipes. So you got to there's risk versus reward there, and a lot of the items now we're dealing with the region-wide auction house. It's he who takes the biggest risk sometimes wins. So be aware that even the new embellishments, you got to have some gold saved up and be willing to spend some serious gold to even get into those markets in 10.2. I looked at my stats for reference, and I think I spent somewhere in the region of about 25 million gold on Shadow Flame essences in the first 2 weeks of patch 10.1. So that gives you an indication of just how much you need to spend to craft these new things to be able to then sell them, hopefully for a bit of a profit. I was aggressively trying to fix a Dracothis problem I had at the beginning of patch 10.1, but that's a story for another video. The only thing to say really for gathering is much of the same. Your herbalists and miners are going to be doing practically the same thing as they have been. The new zone does have herb nodes and ore nodes, but realistically, you're still going to be farming glow spores predominantly, I would suspect, or doing some very sort of specific target farming for some awakened if they start to spike in price. Skinners though, Skinners might be getting a little bit more love as they have the new Dreaming Antler fragments to go and get, in essence, the replacement for the Obsidian Cobra skin. So there's a few things. We're starting to see a few things here and there, not too much. I do hope that in the next few weeks I can report on a little bit more coming, but that is what we have for now. If you have any more questions on this, please feel free to use the comment section down below, or of course there's always the Discord. The Discord is predominantly gold making focused, so I mean by all means jump in there, ask your questions. There's always lots of like-minded people that can chip in their thoughts and ideas, and you know, power in numbers. Realistically, it's a good place to jump into if you're just trying to keep up with what's going on. But I'll leave it there for today, boys and girls. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hit the like button if you did, consider subscribing if you're new around here, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.